check. One, two, three. Rolling. So it's 12/17. I tried. I was working on a 12/17 2019 number B and number C, and I found what was it 141 5.5 mile road in Connecticut. 141 5.5 mile road somewhere in Connecticut. There's a $13 million estate with multiple properties, one mansion, one servants' quarters, one guest house, one farmhouse that needs renovation, and over 1,000 acres. 100 acres for $13 million. It's a fully functioning, up to date, livable mansion with a livable servants' quarters and a livable guest house, and it has plenty of road access, so you could get to off the estate onto 5.5 mile road, and it's in Connecticut. So there was that, and then there was the Seaside Sanatorium, which was the state was looking to sell to a developer for renovations. They suggested a hotel, and they suggested that the land around the building itself stay public. Well, the hotel itself could be private and profitable. Um, so there was those two ditties. I'd like something close to home. I'd personally, when my parents decide to relinquish control of the 1790 established 10,000 square foot in New London City. It was purchased somewhere around 1790 A.D. It's over on Merrick, right on the New London City skirts. It was New London City, and the borders changed into Waterford in 1870 or something similar. So Gunny Jones from in between Kiruna, Sweden, and Svalbard, Norway, went down to Stockholm, and then went over to Ellis Isle. And when he finally got to America, he purchased property in New London City. There, he had his survived by son Tool Carlson, that had Werner Carlson, that had Silva Carlson, that had Ricky Carlson, that had me, Drew Carlson, or Andrew Carlson, Afa Carlson, however you would says. Aja Carlson was going around Grateful Dead fiction for a while, as far as the 329 1990 Nassau Coliseum. Wake up to find out a new baby was born unto the Grateful Dead. Um, the Drew character was being pushed out the womb, while a nameless blood tied family member, Sugar Ree, was on stage announcing his birth to the crowd of over 500,000 people in Uniondale, New York, Nassau Coliseum on 32990. So that particular family member was on stage next to Jerry from '87 until '95. Played small shows, and now and again will make appearances in crowd at small shows, or northeast stadiums, whatever would be the home team, New York or Hartford, and the spaces between, etc. So there was that, and the relation, biological, would be towards Shepherd, the Scottish Shepherds, related to Bob Weir, John Lennon, the Lennons of John Lennon of the Beatles, Albert Hoffman himself, and then although Gladys was born and then chastised after birth, her ovaries were removed. She couldn't have kids somehow. Well, we'll just leave it vague, because apparently she's more of like a public hero than anything, some kind of mythological public hero of sorts. Just because she raised my pa from '67, she was my great grandparents Werner and Sarah's property. In 1900 or 1910, closer to 1915, she was purchased and lived with them until her passing. After their passing, right, and she was a nanny. She was Mima. Um, she raised me from 1990 to 2006, where she passed away. I was her grandkid, in law, non-biological. She sort of adopted my pa. She adopted me, etc. So there was those couple things. Albert Hoffman would be my fourth cousin. My great grandmother Phoebe, whom I lived with 1990 to 2008, lived with Albert Hoffman from her birth until she was captured by the Nazis, and displaced to America. Later, they got back in touch and sort of passed away over the phone together. Um, they stayed in touch from, said, 1950s to 2008 is when she passed away. So there was that. So if I was to come into money, I would think less about The Brickyard Road Castle in Woodstock, Connecticut, is $45 million, and more about the 5.5 mile road, um, over 1,000 acres in land, mansion in Connecticut, as well as I'll have to find something smaller than the old Waterford Airport, which would perhaps be the Seaside Sanatorium renovations. Would be cheaper than a standing stadium and amusement park as far as the old Waterford Airport compared to the Seaside Sanatorium in Waterford, Connecticut. And again, the 1790 founded Merrick Estate with the 1800s garage on it, and then perhaps Toole or Werner built. Probably Toole built it. Werner lived there and built the house in 1921. The older estate was burnt down by bounty hunters of Virginia because Toole was smuggling slaves back before Abraham Lincoln wrote the Emancipation doodad. And again, his dad Gunsmith was in the country 1790 AD from a land in Sweden somewhere between Coruna and north of that up to Svalbard, Norway. There was a certain race of southern Arctic, northern Scandinavian peoples that are resistant to, say, negative 650 degrees Fahrenheit as well as positive 650 degrees Fahrenheit. 35% of that from that particular lineage, which is looked at as USA hierarchy, and the Swiss was looked at as somewhat of a royalty, as Albert's new invention. You notice the camera's shaky. I'm a walking antipsychotic overdose from cariprazine, and I've got tension in my jaw again too. It's day 4,420. Now we bumped it up 30 days. I'm like 3 into the newest bottle. 4,420 days of at least one every 24 hours, and it was 3,600 days of risperidone, with the climax, the zenith, right in between, was 600 consecutive days, or full 2 years, more like 700, of 12 milligram ingested every 12 hours, oral dissolved by self, and a 30 milligram administered every once a week, and that was for 2 full years in between, and the center of the 3,600. After that, now the rest of everything after 3,600 consecutive, at least one every 24 hour, has been cariprazine, one every 24 hours, starting at a 6 milligram, and now it's down to a 1.5 milligram every 24 hour. And originally the risperidone was for something of a radiation tolerance. It had a synthetic radiation consumable in it, so I could work with nuclear reactors and or administer inoculations in case there was an leak at a facility such as Dominion or Millstone, and or nuclear submersible crew members, etc. As with engines that run on something similar to uranium plutonium. Also, people that work with uranium plutonium, I could help health wise towards them, and or towards the mechanicals that